Hey YouTube, AphroditesCrush here once again. See how everyone's doing. Promise you guys a new video, so I deliver. A couple things I want to go through on today's video, and something I've been noticing a lot on YouTube. I myself I own a PS3, PS3, a PS2. I own a PlayStation Vita. I also own a couple classic Nintendo consoles. I own a GameCube, I own an N64. My wife owns a DS, and we both own Game Boy Advances. And lately, I've been seeing a lot of the term fanboy being tossed around right now, and I kind of felt like I want to put in my 2 cents about the subject. Um, Straight off the top, I'm primarily a Sony gamer. I really like the way the Sony platforms are set out. You guys know my feelings on my Vita. I love my Vita. It's actually better than my PSP. But I hear a lot about how I'm a Sony fanboy, and a couple things. First off, I gladly take that term because I feel that Sony is a better product than pretty much everything else. Um, that being said, I do have a lot of respect for the Xbox 360 and also the original Xbox. I didn't used to be honest. I was like strictly, either Sony or Nintendo for me. That was my feeling on it. But for me now, I can deal with the 360. I used to own an Xbox and a 360, but I just prefer my PlayStation 3. Um, what I'm seeing right now is with these console wars pretty much dying down for the moment, at least between like the PS3 and the 360, because they're basically on equal footing now. As far as sales go, the Sony PlayStation 3 is pretty much on par with what the 360 sells. So as far as total sales, they pretty much mark out about the same level. But what we have right now, and this is something that I don't like, is there's a lot of people bouncing around the new Nintendo console, the Wii U, that's going to be coming out in December. Um, I have my reservations about Nintendo right now, and here's why. First things first, the Wii shouldn't even been a console. As most of you probably already know, the Wii was supposed to have been just an add-on to the GameCube, and then it just took on a life of its own with Nintendo's front office, and everyone's like, oh my goodness, they could do the motion sensor thing, and blah, 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 blah. And it sold tons of millions of copies, and then it got shoveled away in people's basements and closets and underneath their beds and got traded into GameStops all across the country. You take a look at the Wii games versus the PS3 and 360 games, worst games overall as far as ratings from Metacritic, Game Informer, Edge Magazine, across the board, you will pretty much find 25% less, games worth playing on the Wii, and I don't agree with that. And why are you going to make basically a console that is basically dumbed down for a general audience? And yeah, you're selling a lot of consoles, but in the long run, you're gonna have people lose respect for your product because you're not innovating. And that's why I'm not too perky about this Wii U that's coming out. Or was it this December? Simply because like they're promising these fantastic graphics and blah blah blah, and all they're pushing down our throats again is another gimmick, basically turning your Wii into a life-size DS. Now, don't get me wrong, I think the DS is a great handheld. It definitely filled a spot in the market for handheld gaming that wasn't being filled at the time. And it was a new, innovative concept. Have a touch screen with another screen added on to it, and you can play your older advanced games if you have an older DS. And to a certain extent, the 3DS does a little bit of that as well. The 3D is a big thing right now. But this entire idea of turning your physical gaming console that you have at home into basically a life-size DS, I don't like that. It's basically another gimmick, and I don't know how the general gaming community as a whole gives into gimmicks. I've always thought that as a gaming community, we rely on good games, good programming, and good support from not only the developer, but also the game makers. And for some reason, the way the Wii caught on, Nintendo now thinks that they can just run amok with this next console. That's a freaking another gimmick. I've never been a fan of the Wii, and I've played the Wii plenty of times. I've actually given it a chance. There are a couple games that look like they could work really well, like Mario Kart and whatnot. But I'm not going to buy a console for less than 10 games. I really won't. I mean, everyone, like, I work in a store that sells video games. I work in the electronics section of a big box retailer. And let me tell you what, when they come into a big box store for a game for a Wii, is a couple different things. It's a dance game like Just Dance, or Country Dance, Gold's Gym Dance, Zumba. It's basically dancing games, Mario games, Zelda, and Wii Sports. That's a big four right there. Dancing, Mario, Zelda, sports. That's it. I don't see people coming in for Mad World, even though Mad World got bouncing scores when it came out. I don't see people coming in to pick up Black Ops for the console very much. I think the entire time I've worked there since Black Ops has come out, I've sold maybe 10 copies. That's just the truth of the matter. And I don't. How can you have a successful console with no good games to support it? Oh, but it does this, and you can do this. You know what? It's just another chance for people to, end up being lazy without being lazy. Because you'll have the people who will sit there and play archery on Wii from their couch. On their couch. On their couch. I see that a lot. And I understand that people will like the Wii because of its abilities to, do things like, it'll get older people up and moving around. But you know what? That is a very niche market. Very, very niche market. If you're pushing for the old people who don't get up and around very much anymore, your console isn't really as strong as you think it is. No, that's just my opinion. And now we have this big, super big tablet-sized touchscreen. It's going to be, for the Wii U when it comes out in December. I can't help but laugh. And here is Sony and Microsoft planning and scheming and what they're going to put into the next console and blah blah blah, and it might do this and it might do that, and and you're telling me that you can't just make a working console. You gotta make it so there's a huge freaking tablet. That way you're not staring at the screen. The reason why you have the damn video game in the first place. There's a problem with that. When the casual gamer takes over the gaming community, we get the Wii, and unfortunately the Wii I don't even consider to be a full console. Now no one would have all the Nintendos out there saying, well, it does this and it does that, without the games to support it. Unfortunately, it becomes another PSP Go. I mean, you have no real viable support. And yeah, you sell a lot of consoles, but at the end of the day, you have to look at your console. You have to look at what you're selling, and you're like, okay, did we put in all that we could for a product? I mean, that's where at least I have a lot more respect for the 360 programmers, the 360 developers, and the PS3 developers. And the guys that do the developing for the DS games. And yeah, a lot of that is gimmicky because now we have the Kinect and the Move, and all of a sudden we're turning into this culture of who can make the best video game that gets you off your ass. Just give me a game, give me a game that I want to play. It's like with my Vita, I have downloadable games that I get from the PlayStation Network, and I pretty much all but two of the games I have so far that I've tried at least don't have the touch functionality. I'm in it for a good system that will play good video games, and just because I don't use a feature doesn't mean that the console is wasted because I don't use that feature. It's a console that has extra features should you choose to use it, but it has a primary use beyond that. I mean, the Xbox certainly accomplished that when they were coming out. It's like, well, we have this and this and this and this. You do all this from the dashboard, but you know what? We still have Call of Duty coming out. We still have the Elder Scrolls coming out. The actual base of it is a good game. You know, I don't get why people are all up in arms because Sony and Microsoft want to pack as much into a console as possible, and everyone's thinking that the new console is going to be coming out this year. The life cycle is not even close to up, and maybe next year they might like announce something or whatnot. But I mean, when you take a look at Nintendo, and yeah, the 3DS sales have perked back up, and if you saw my video on the 3DS a couple months back, they kind of took the advice. They needed to push other things to make that console viable, and I think Sony's going to have to do the same to make sure that the Vita's profitable in coming months. But when Nintendo's sitting there and they're just like, well, it's going to have better graphics than the PS3 and 360, and what really didn't help their cause is when it was announced last year. I think it was at E3 it was announced, and they pack in footage from PS3 and 360 games, and you get outed on it the day of. There's a problem there, which means that, and you're sitting here telling me that's the best thing that's coming out. You're going to sit here, announce it, and try to give me gameplay footage, and you're not going to actually supply me with actual game footage from your console. There may be cause for concern there. You're banking a lot of money on this Wii U when it comes out in December, because right now, I believe IGN put out a article a couple months ago when Nintendo first reported its the profits and whatnot, and it was like back down in 1985 as far as profit. Yeah, there might be some big head honchos at Nintendo looking for other jobs come this time next year. And it all traces back to them not having a viable working console. When the word gets out that you basically put out a gimmick as a console, you'll have the general public on your side because they'll see that it's selling. They'll be like, well, I want to get in on that. And then when you have less than 20% of the people buying the games for it because they're like, oh, whatever, dude, this does nothing. This doesn't even play CDs, doesn't play DVDs. I mean, when people buy consoles these days for the standard, they want like an entertainment source. And everyone these days is about what looks the nicest on my shelf. They don't want a gaming console and a DVD player and a Blu-ray player and something that hooks up to their stereo and have like 35 different things, like the way it was back in like the 80s and 90s when the biggest console that you had on your wall was the biggest best thing, because man, you could just show off everything that you have. These days it's all about minimal space use. Not everyone's living in like a huge freaking house anymore. Now it's will it fit in a nice confined spot, or there's some people who just don't have a bunch of crap on their wall. So Nintendo needs to get their act together. I mean, they lucked out on the 3DS. They did some things and brought out some good games for it that saved them. But if they're not going to, if all they're going to do is just say, well, our graphics are better, you're not touching base with very many people. You're not touching base with the 360 followers who have a ton of achievements, and you're not touching base with the Sony followers who love having a Blu-ray player with their system and love not having to switch out discs all the time. And I used to be a 360 gamer. Like I said, I used to have an Xbox and an Xbox 360. And I mean, there's a difference between having like a little bit of a larger controller, and Xbox had that issue and they fixed it. Well, now you're gonna have to play by the rules a little bit, Nintendo. But that's my feelings. Hit me with some comments, suggestions. Definitely rate, comment, subscribe, people. But thank everybody out there for watching. I'll probably maybe get up another video sometime later on today. I'll see you guys later. Peace out.